A soul cake, a soul cake. Please, good missus, a soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum, a cherry. Any good thing to make us all merry. A soul cake, a soul cake. Please, good missus, a soul cake. One for Peter, one for Paul, one for him who made us all. God bless the master of this house, and the mistress also, and all the little children that round your table grow. The cattle in your stable, the dogs at your front door, and all that dwell within your gates will wish you 10 times more. The soul cake, the soul cake. Please, good missus, a soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum, a cherry. Any good thing to make us all merry. Spirits, spooks, ghosts, ghouls, and goblins, visits from beyond the grave. Halloween is a time for fright, so be brave. To start my talk, I invite those spirits among us to reveal themselves. In particular, I summon the Holy Ghost. Oh, Holy Ghost, make yourself known. This is our Holy Ghost. Move among us, Holy Ghost. Thank you. And now you can go back to Trinity Lutheran. It makes you think twice about the Trinity, doesn't it? But then if you think twice about the Trinity, isn't that 6? Okay. The coming of cold weather, the dying of the light, plants going dormant and animals hiding and hibernating, the idea of death and dying, a creepy world writes a broad metaphor across the landscape. Here's a poem by Harry Ben, Halloween. Tonight is the night when dead leaves fly, when witches on switches across the sky, when elf and sprite flit through the night on moony sheen. Tonight is the night when leaves make sound like a gnome in a home under the ground, when spooks and trolls creep out of holes mossy and green. Tonight is the night when pumpkins stare through sheaves and leaves everywhere, when golden ghost and goblin host dance round the queen. It's Halloween. The Celtic tradition calls this holiday Samhain, and it is seen as a liminal time when the boundary between this world and the other world thins. This means that the spirits or fairies can more easily come into our world and are particularly active. The belief that the souls of dead men return home one night of a year seems to have an ancient origin and is found in many cultures throughout the world. Lanterns are made to represent these spirits or to ward them off. I like the Irish Halloween tradition of carving turnips. These little turnips look almost like shrunken heads. They're really scary with glowing eyes. That tradition becomes our tradition of jack-o'-lantern as soon as the Irish moved to America and discovered pumpkins. Halloween is a time to get scared. And about the scariest thing I can think of is a mid-19th century German philosopher. How scary is Hegel? Rumor has it that John Caspar Schmidt, better known by his school nickname as Max Stirner, was the scariest of the lot. He wrote The Unique One and His Property, a book of egoist anarchy and nihilism. His writings are open to wide interpretation, so I intend to interpret them with a chainsaw. Stirner is an egoist, which means he considers self-interest to be the root cause of an individual's every action, even when he or she is apparently doing altruistic actions. While this very narrow view is harsh, even mean, I think it restates one of the principal reasons I'm a Unitarian. I have always thought that a primary goal of a good Unitarian should be self-improvement. That Unitarians inherited from their pilgrim ancestors the idea of self-betterment and the singular belief that the best way to improve oneself is by helping others, that is, to improve and strengthen community by supporting those in the community. I think that's an underpinning of Stirner's belief. One reason Stirner is so frightening is that he takes the philosophical logic of his left Hegelian friends to its conclusion, and much of what he writes drips with sarcasm. He argues that we are unique individuals and that we must realize this by freeing ourselves from what he calls spooks. He defines these spooks as high beings which live in our minds and limit our unique freedom. To Stirner, these mental spooks take the form of institutions of state, religion, society, self, as well as the capitalistic ideas of private property and division of labor. Even abstractions such as love and faith and charity become obsessive to the unique one and a spook. Oh, and smartphones. I mean, am I really nothing but my Facebook page? Stirner says no. Facebook is full of spooks. Stirner argues that the concept of the self is something impossible to fully comprehend. So-called creative nothing he describes as an endpoint of language. Ultimately, he concludes that in order to free the unique individual from all domination, the ego must be realized as its own creation, must call itself out of nothing, must speak itself. This was a scary idea for Stirner's contemporaries, the void at the center of everything, etc. Among them, Marx and Nietzsche, who both were influenced. Marx even wrote a lengthy criticism of Stirner. To philosophers in Germany in 1850, Stirner was writing scary stuff, though I think what he wrote might not trouble a Zen monk. Stirner wrote his ego and his own in 1845 in Germany. He frequently writes in question and answer style, carrying on a dialogue with himself, a sort of philosophical minstrel show, a dialectic. Here then is a smidgen of Stirner in his own words. From the moment a newborn catches sight of the light of the world, he or she seeks to find out the self, to get a hold of the self out of its confusion, a confusion which he or she, with everything else, is tossed about in motley mixture. But everything that comes in contact with the child defends itself, turns against attacks, and asserts its own persistence. Accordingly, because each thing cares for itself at the same time, comes in constant collision with other things, the combat of self-assertion is unavoidable. The realm of spirits is monstrously great. There is an infinite deal of spiritual. Yet, let us look and see what the spirit, this bequest of the ancients, properly is. Have you seen a spirit? No, but my grandmother. Now you see, it's just so with me too. I myself have never seen any, but my grandmother had them running between her feet in all sorts of ways, and out of confidence in our grandmother's honesty, we believe in the existence of spirit. But had we no grandfathers then? And did they not shrug their shoulders every time our grandmothers told about their ghosts? Yes, those were unbelieving men who had harmed our good religion much, those rationalists. We shall feel that. What else lies at the bottom of this warm faith in ghosts, if not the faith in the existence of spiritual beings in general? And is not this latter itself disastrously unsettled if saucy men of the understanding, rationalist and humanist, may disturb the former? The romanticists were quite conscious what a blow to the very belief in God suffered by laying aside the belief in spirits or ghosts. The good believers and fathers of the church did not suspect that with a belief in ghosts, the foundations of religion was withdrawn, that since then it had been floating in air. He who no longer believes in any ghost need only to travel on consistently in his unbelief to see that there is no separate being at all, concealed behind things, no ghost, what is naively reckoned as synonymously, even in our use of the word, no spirit. Spirits exist. Look around in the world and say for yourself whether a spirit does not gaze upon you out of everything. Out of the lovely little flower there speaks to you the spirit of the Creator, who has shaped it so wonderfully. The stars proclaim the spirit that established their order. From the mountain tops, the spirit of sublimity breathes down, and out of the waters of spirit, yearning murmurs up, and out of humanity, millions of spirits speak. The mountains sink, the flowers fade, the world of stars fall in ruins, the men die. What matters the wreck of these visible bodies? The spirit, the invisible spirit, abides eternally. I can just hear the sarcasm. Haunted! Yes, the whole world is haunted. Only is haunted? Nay, itself walks. It is uncanny through and through. It is a wandering, seeming body of spirit. It is a spook. What else should a ghost be then? Than an apparent body, but a real spirit? Well, the world is empty. Is not, is only glamorous semblance. Its truth is the spirit alone. It is a seeming body of spirit. Look out near or far. A ghostly world surrounds you everywhere. You are always having apparitions or visions. Everything that appears to you is only the phantasm of an indwelling spirit, is a ghostly apparition. The world is to you only a world of appearances, behind which the spirit walks. You see spirits. I can just see Hegel cringing. Are you perchance think of comparing yourself with the ancients who saw gods everywhere? Gods, my dear madam, are not spirits. Gods do not degrade the world to a semblance and do not spiritualize it. But to you, the whole world is spiritualized and becomes an enigmatical ghost. Therefore, do not wonder if you likewise find in yourself nothing but a spook. Is not your body haunted by your spirit? And is not the latter alone the true and real, the former only a transitory knot or a semblance? Are not all ghosts uncanny beings that wait for deliverance to it spirits? Since the Spirit appeared in the world, since the Word became flesh, since then the world has been spiritualized, enchanted, a spook. You have a spirit, for you have thoughts. What are your thoughts? Spiritual entities. Not things, then? No, but the spirit of things, the main point of all things, the inmost in them, their idea. Consequently, what you think is not only your thought, on the contrary, it is that in the world which is most real, that which is properly called true. It is truth itself. If I only think truly, I think the truth. I may, to be sure, err with regard to the truth and to fail to recognize it. But if I recognize truly, the object of my cognition is the truth. So I suppose you strive at all times to recognize the truth. To me, the truth is sacred. It may well happen that I find the truth incomplete and replace it with a better, but the truth cannot be abrogated. I believe in the truth. Therefore I search in it. Nothing transcends it. It is eternal. Sacred, eternal is the truth. It is the sacred, the eternal. But you, who let yourself be filled and led by this sacred thing, are yourself hallowed. Further, the sacred is not for your senses, and you are not a sensual man discovered its trace, but for your faith, or more definitively still for your spirit, for it is yourself, you know, is a spiritual thing. A spirit is spirit for the spirit. With ghosts, we arrive in the spiritual realm, in the realm of essence. What haunts the universe and has its occult, incomprehensible being there is precisely the mysterious spook that we call highest essence. And to get to the bottom of this spook, to comprehend it, to discover reality in it, to prove the existence of God, this task men set to themselves for thousands of years with the horrible impossibility of transforming the spook into a non-spook, the real into something real, unreal into something real, the spirit into an entire and corporate person. With this, they tormented themselves to death. Behind the existing world, they sought the thing itself, the essence behind the thing. They sought the unthing. Here Stirner is poking Hegel in the eye with Hegel's idea of das Ding, the thing itself. Sacred is the highest essence, and everything in which the highest essence reveals or will reveal itself. But hallowed are they who recognize this highest essence together with its own, that is, together with its revelations. The sacred hallows in turn its reverer, who by his worship becomes himself a saint, and likewise what he does is saintly, a saintly walk, saintly thoughts and actions, imagines and aspirations. It is easily understood that the conflict over whether it is revered as the highest essence can be significant only so long as even the most embittered opponents can see to each other the main point, that there is a highest essence to which worship or service is due. If one should smile compassionately at the whole struggle over the highest essence, as a Christian might at the war of words between Shiite and Sunni. And I think it's odd that a mid-19th century German philosopher would consider the knowledge that Shia and Sunni are in conflict common enough to use it as an example when evidently George Bush and Dick Cheney had no concept of it. Or the squabbles between Brahmin and Buddhist. Seen this way, then, the hypothesis of a highest essence would be null in his eyes, and the conflict on the basis of idle play. He's basically saying there is no highest essence, no God. Whether then one God, or the three in one, whether the Lutheran God or the Almighty Supreme, are not God at all, but man, may represent the highest essence. That makes no difference at all for them who denies the highest essence itself. For in his eyes, those servants of the highest essence are one and all pious people, the most raging atheist, not less than the most faith-filled Christian. In the foremost place of the sacred, then, stands the highest essence and the faith in this essence, our holy faith. Truths are material, like vegetables or weeds. As to whether vegetable or weed, the decision lies in me. Here I skip about 230 pages. Hear the chainsaw? The ideal man is realized when the Christian apprehension turns about and becomes the proposition. I, this unique one, am man. The conceptual question, what is man, has then changed into the personal question, who is man? With what the concept was sought for in order to realize it. With who, it is no longer a question at all, but the answer is personally on hand at once in the asker. The question answers itself. Who is man? I am. They say of God, names name thee not. That holds good of me. No concept expresses me. Nothing that is designated as my essence exhausts me. There are only names. Likewise, they say of God that he is perfect and has no calling to strive for perfection. That holds good of me alone. I am owner of my might, and I am so when I know myself as unique. And the unique one, the owner himself, returns to his creative nothing of which he is born. Every higher essence above me, be it God, be it man, weakens the feeling of my uniqueness and pales only before the sun of this consciousness. If I concern myself, if I set my affairs on myself, the unique one, then my concern rests only on its transitory mortal creator who consumes himself, and I may say, all things are nothing to me. The ego is the end point of language. It does not exist. And that is Stirner's scariest idea that I do not exist. This is truly a frightening idea, unless, of course, and I was talking with Sid, he agrees maybe, you are a Zen master, and then, boom, you chop wood and carry water. For all the jarring notes of life seem blending in a song, and all the angles of the strife slowly rounding into calm, and shadows fall apart, and so the west winds play, and all the windows of my heart open to the day.